2 days, or that is the time frame from when Gabby was killed, because we know that according to a news release from the FBI, a lot to follow here, that these crimes with the credit card were, quote, related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito. So that means that, again, 30th, 31st, and 1st, he comes back around the 1st. The van captured on some road cameras. So again, those 3 days, we've really narrowed it to those 3 days, the 27th, 28th, and 29th, and really 2.5 days. So
the timeline is certainly coming together here, folks. Yeah. Again, JB Buno, 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau. As much as we're going to be talking here about the search for Brian Laundrie, now the manhunt really for Brian Laundrie here, of course, as we've been reporting here on WFLA Now, I also want to just take a moment here and remind folks that this is still very much at the heart of this story is Gabby Petito. And funeral arrangements are coming together. They're available on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Funeral arrangements in New York are coming together. We, of course, want to pass along a very sincere, just message to Gabby Petito's family, the Schmidt and Petito families, that our thoughts and prayers are with you. And as funeral arrangements are coming together, we're thinking of you. And of course, we have here. I was showing this on stream yesterday. The Petito family, sending me this bracelet here, a prayers for Gabby bracelet here, and I'll try to share some more details about that here in a little bit here. But we have to keep things really focused here on why you're following the story. You're following the story because you want justice for Gabby, but really it's all about Gabby, and it's about making sure here that that we remember that this is all about a 22-year-old girl who went on a van life road trip across the country, was having the time of her life, or at least it appeared that she was having the time of her life based on the social media posts. And then something tragically went wrong. And so we're thinking of Gabby Petito's family here today as funeral arrangements start to come together. We know that there's going to be additional services that are going to be coming together, and additional vigil sort of efforts in there in New York, so that as many people as possible, the New York community and New York strong, man, they're going to come together and, of course, rally for the Petito and Schmidt families. We'll share details on that. And I think we have details on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. We're moments away here from being joined by News Nation. We're going to take your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt questions here in just a moment. I'm going to give everybody a cheat code here for a moment. We're going to give you a little bit of a cheat code here to get your comments on screen here first. We're going to be bringing in here News Nation's Brian Entin. If you haven't been following his reporting, it's been outstanding. And we're going to be bringing him in here to kind of get up to speed here with not just the latest, but also just to gain his perspective as to what's going on there on the ground right now in Northport, Florida. So Brian is standing by for a live report. And Walt, we'll be taking hashtag News Nation comments here, a little bit of a break from the hashtag Hey Walt questions and comments we've been taking here over the last several days.
Yeah, and I think that the last several days, I was saying this to you today, that was it 2 days ago? Well, it seems like there seems to be a significant bit of breaking news around the dinner hour. I'm not saying the FBI is planning it that way, but on yesterday it was the notice of this indictment for the official charge, use of unauthorized access devices, and again related to Mr. Laundrie's activities following the death of Gabrielle Petito. Again, narrowing that timeline. But a few days ago, I think it was Tuesday, or no, it was last Friday, right? It was a week ago that the homicide news broke. Was it last Friday? Yeah, it was last Friday. And again, around 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Or what was that?
Yeah, we'll get the timeline here, folks. I'm reading through a lot of your comments and your questions coming in here. Again, use hashtag News Nation. We're going to bring in now from, of course, News Nation, Brian Entin, who has been, of course, leading the way on this story, especially on social media. Give him a follow here, folks. Hey there, Brian. Great to have you on here. Let's just kind of pick your brain. Where are we as we now enter day 6 of the search here at Carlton Reserve? And, we had the video from you yesterday asking Brian Laundrie's parents why they went to Orlando. And of course, you reported soon thereafter that it was a trip to meet with Stephen Bertolino, the attorney here. But where are we now this Friday morning now? People clamoring for updates. We have the federal arrest warrant that has been issued. How has that injected new life here into the search? And where do we stand now entering day 6 of the search for Brian Laundrie? And Brian, I know we have you on Zoom. I think you might be muted.
There we go. Can you hear me now, JB?
I can, Brian. Great to have, first and foremost, great to have you on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think you said it well. I mean, I do think this has injected new life into the entire story and the search for Laundrie. On Wednesday, it was sort of a frustrating day. Well, I'm losing track of time. Today's Friday. Yeah, Wednesday was sort of a frustrating day. I mean, there weren't many developments. We were out at the swamp. Everyone was hoping that something would be found, that we'd get some kind of update. And we all sort of went to bed late Wednesday night thinking like, gosh, like how long could this go on? And then yesterday, it just seemed like everything changed with this arrest warrant. I mean, now we can finally say manhunt. We don't have to keep saying missing person, which started to just sort of feel ridiculous after a while. So now it's officially a manhunt. Hopefully more people will start paying attention, reporting tips to the FBI, and we can get some closure for Gabby's family.
Brian, this is 8 on your side, senior investigator Walt Buteau. Nice to meet you virtually here. Nice work out there, by the way. And I know as we look at the two scenes there, are you getting any feeling for frustration from the officers, or is it still that hyper focus? So we're doing this for Gabby sort of situation out there.
So when we were out at the reserve, obviously the officers are deep inside the reserve, and we're kind of on like an exterior road. It's so wooded and so swampy. It's awful. And so when you're out there, like all I think about is how difficult this is for the officers. I saw your chopper video this morning, and you could see, or maybe it was from yesterday, you could see officers in like knee-deep water walking through the swamp. I mean, we've talked about the alligators and snakes, and it's so hot out there, and there's thunderstorms. So, I mean, you have to imagine that they're so motivated to keep doing this despite these conditions. And I've been wondering a lot, what the FBI must know that we don't know, that they're putting these kinds of resources into this search.
That's a great point. We've been JB and I have been talking about the same thing, and we get a lot of chatter. Oh, he's not there. He's not there. But I think that's important to note.
Can I hop in here for a second here? And again, being joined here by News Nation's Brian Entin. Brian, as of course we take comments and questions from social media, and I've given everybody a little bit of a cheat code here. If you'd like to have your comment featured here on WFLA Now, we'll animate comments here on screen on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Use hashtag News Nation, and we can animate your comment up here on screen. So let's bring in the very first comment, and that's why I jumped in here, Walt, because
that's fine. I
want to bring this one in here from Lindsay Perrin, hashtag News Nation. This is the sort of comment that we're seeing right now on social media, Brian. Lindsay saying they are never going to find him there. Just look at how vast this area. Brian, you were in Eagle 8 HD, our chopper here at WFLA. You said that you really appreciate just how large this area is. It can be a humbling experience when you fly over it and you look in 360 degrees and you just see wilderness out there. There's a lot of skepticism out there, Brian, right now as to whether or not they're going to be able to find him at Carlton Reserve here. So I know that the search efforts continue, but Walt and I have been talking here. There could be, of course, more that the FBI knows that the public doesn't know that leads them to believe that Brian Laundrie is, in fact, at Carlton Reserve.
Yeah, when we were up in your helicopter, I mean, you could tell, I mean, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. There's so much brush and there's so many trees and it's so dense that if someone is hiding underneath the canopy, I mean, it would be very, very hard to spot them. Obviously, a lot of people are speculating that they're going out there at night with helicopters and using like the flare technology where they can see sort of like heat sensing. And we've seen, obviously, with the flight maps that there have been planes or helicopters out there circling. So they're probably doing this at night also. But yeah, it's going to be difficult. We know in the beginning what they were going off of was the parents' story saying that Brian went there last Tuesday to go hiking and that was the last place they saw them. But you have to wonder between then and now, Have they found more evidence, surveillance video from businesses in the area, maybe trail cams? Did they pick up Brian driving the Mustang there? There's got to be some other piece of this puzzle that they know about this reserve for them to be, having this massive of a search every single day. It's got to be, costing a ton of money and resources.
Thank you to Lindsay. We'll take some more hashtag, any of the hashtags on your screen, hashtag HJB, hashtag HeyWalt. But like I said, if you really want to get our attention, because we have another 15 or so minutes with News Nation's Brian Entin. Of course, follow him on News Nation. Check your local listings on newsnationnow.com and follow Brian across all social media platforms. He's a great follow. Use any of the hashtags here on your screen and we can animate it. I'll bring this one in for both of you, too, Brian and Walt. It comes from Tegan on YouTube. Hashtag Hey Walt. I think it's interesting that in Florida, a parent can't be charged for accessory after the fact. Why don't you explain, Walt, what this means based on what you were talking about last night here? And Brian, perhaps you can speak to now how Brian Laundrie's parents are a major focal point as far as the public view, and I'm certain that it's also the law enforcement's view here as well. Walt?
And to clarify, it would be accessory after the fact, and that is helping someone after a crime, whether it's hiding a piece of evidence or whatever that might be. It would be accessory after the fact in the third degree. They can be charged in the first and second degree. And the federal statute, by the way, has no exclusions for parents whatsoever. And there are other charges that a parent could be charged with that have no exemptions, including obviously getting rid of evidence, that type of thing. And we're speaking completely hypothetically, JB, obviously, because there are no indications of any criminal charges like those. We have one criminal charge in this case, and that's the credit card fraud situation. But another note that I think some of these folks have asked about why not just bring the parents in and make them talk? Well, they don't have to talk, and they're not required to give any information about their children. And again, in this case, we don't know whether they've said anything to the FBI or not. We know the FBI was alone with them for some period of time on Monday during that search warrant execution. They were in the house. Did they question them then? We don't know. But at this point, again, to clarify, a parent cannot be charged with accessory after the fact in the third degree. First and second degree, they can be charged if, again, they help conceal a crime or do something to help their child, their son, conceal a crime after it was committed.
Brian, your thoughts here about the Brian Laundrie's parents now being, they were followed to Orlando yesterday, correct?
Yeah, they were followed to Orlando. Just sort of following up on what Walt said, we had this former FBI agent on last night. Her name is Jennifer Koffendorfer. She was in the FBI for 30 years. She profiled people just like Brian Laundrie. So it's super interesting to get her perspective. And she basically said it's going to be very difficult for them to charge the parents right now. She did not expect to see that happening. I asked her, do you think the FBI is going to come knocking on the parents' door and drag them out anytime soon? And she said no. She said that there would have to be really, really specific evidence from the last couple of weeks, something like the parents going out and taking out a ton of cash and then being able to prove that they gave it to Brian Laundrie before he disappeared, or something like buying him a cell phone. It have to be very, very specific to show that they were in on it. And she said it's difficult to prove, and she didn't expect to see that happening.
Let's get to this. Again, a lot of questions and comments coming in here, folks, from all across social media. We've got another 10 to 15 minutes with News Nation's Brian Entin joining us here. Everybody, again, follow him on social media for the very latest. And I'd like to thank Tegan with the last comment here, accessing comments on Twitter, accessing comments off of Facebook, accessing comments off of YouTube. And again, the cheat code that we have here for you to get your comments on screen over the next 10 to 15 minutes is hashtag News Nation. And then we'll resume taking your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments here in just a moment. Let's get to Sarah here on Twitter, hashtag News Nation. And again, I have to caution you, a lot of the comments that are coming in, and Brian and Walt knows this already, but a lot of the comments, and I'm sure, Brian, you read them with all the followers that you have on Twitter, a lot of them delve into hypotheticals here. Sarah writing, hashtag News Nation. If Brian did get on a plane and go to another country, don't you have to show ID to get a plane ticket? So the FBI/police could check with all airlines to rule out he got on a plane during specific dates. And Brian, to just kind of address this, we've had so much endless speculation here on our streams, our live streams over the last several days here, speculation as to whether or not Brian is still here in the United States. And now we have a federal arrest warrant being issued, of course, in the District of Wyoming. But with a federal arrest warrant being issued here, how does this sort of question as to whether or not Brian is out of the country fit into the equation now with the arrest warrant being issued out of the District of Wyoming?
Well, a few things. I think at this point, obviously, he would be on a no-fly list because he's got this federal arrest warrant. So I think using his own ID, he would have a pretty much impossible time buying a plane ticket and getting to the airport and getting through TSA and everything. I think he would need resources. I mean, this is a guy, from what we know, who didn't really have any money. I mean, he likely had to use Gabby's debit card, which is what he ended up getting charged for, we believe. So, you know, we don't think he has any resources, money. There's even debate about whether he has a cell phone. You know, in that body camera video, at one point, he said he didn't have a phone, although later he sort of alluded to the fact that he did. So I'm not sure he has the resources to flee the country unless he got some kind of help from a friend or from his family or something like that.
We have a bit of a breaking news, a minor breaking news update here to report. Right when we began this stream, Eagle 8 HD was diverted to Paul Amundsen, and Eagle 8 HD was diverted to Hillsborough County for an armed standoff that was occurring. Hillsborough County, for folks joining us outside the Tampa Bay area and maybe even outside of Florida, maybe you're joining us from around the world, wherever you're watching from. Hillsborough County, north of Sarasota County, on the north end of Tampa Bay. Hillsborough County is Tampa. Tampa is, of course, the largest city in Hillsborough County. There was a barricaded suspect, and I'll read here. A Hillsborough County sheriff's deputy was shot and hospitalized in the barricaded standoff. We just got in here seconds ago. Authorities here in Hillsborough County confirming that has no connection to Brian Laundrie's to the manhunt for Brian Laundrie here at this time. So there was, of course, a lot of speculation when we began this stream if the two could in any way, shape, or form be related, but we've just been informed, WFLA has just been informed that the two are not related. JB Buno, Brian Entin, Walt Buteau joining us here, everybody, on WFLA Now. Would like to thank Sarah on Twitter for using News Nation, that hashtag, as far as addressing that comment. Let's get to this next one here. This is a great one. I'm going to ask this one to Brian and Walt here. Brian, you've been working around the clock on this story, so this is a great question here from Valerie Lilly on Facebook, hashtag News Nation. And I'll ask this again to the two of you. As a journalist, who would you want to interview next to try to get new leads and information? And Brian, this is a question I'm sure that when you wake up every morning, this is the question that you ask yourself. What do we say here for Valerie's comment?
In super easy answer, obviously Brian Laundrie's parents. If we could get them to talk, I think they would have quite a story to tell. I think they've got information that we don't know about. You know, I've been outside their house every single day, just hoping at some point, you know, you never know when they're going to crack and come out and just start wanting to talk. And, you know, I mean, if their son, you know, if they really believe their son is missing, you know, why don't they want to come out and plead for help, you know, if they've got nothing to hide. So definitely the parents for me. And
then Brian, after that, that's after the obvious answers, who else would you want to interview on this story?
Let's see. You know, I really try not to lose touch with the fact that, you know, Gabby Petito was like a beautiful person, you know, creative person, you know, a dreamer. Seemed like she had such an incredible life ahead of her. And I've been so focused on the investigation and Brian Laundrie that, you know, I would really, it'd really be, you know, an honor to interview like Gabby Petito's parents. I haven't had the chance to do that. And, you know, get a chance to really tell her story also.
What do you think, Walt?
I think, well, first of all, I mean, I think the Laundries are a great pick. But if we're going to dream here, I guess I would want to interview Brian Laundrie himself, as hard as that would be and impossible as that seems, because obviously he's the closest to what happened, and the FBI doesn't necessarily give interviews, as we know, but a sit down with the lead investigator would be great and informative. And I think that I just named two unreachables. Brian's are more possible than mine, but those, you know, there's so much information we don't know. Brian alluded to it earlier. Why is the FBI and all these officers so focused on this one area in this 25,000 acre wooded and swampy preserve near the house. What did they know that is keeping them there for now? What is 7 out of the last 8 days?
Again, taking your hashtag news.
6 out of the last 7 days. Sorry, losing track.
Yeah, no, the timeline. I'm sure that Brian would agree here. The timeline. There's so many dates now in the timeline. Just like you would see on an episode of your favorite TV show, we need an enormous big board here just to with thumbtacks to pinpoint every big date and be able to move things around. But right now, the timeline, folks, and it's on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. You can also find it on NewsNationNow.com. The timeline is starting to. We're starting to get more information on the timeline. And the big thing, again, was this federal indictment that came down last night when we were live on WFLA Now, giving us, again, information here connected to the charge of use of unauthorized access devices, which is, of course, connected to the Capital One debit card that was, again, allegedly illegally used by Brian Laundrie on the dates of August 30th, August 31st, and September 1st of 2021. Big thanks to the commenter there. Valerie, a great phenomenal comment here. Again, another 5 minutes here with that cheat code, as I call it, to get your comments up here on screen. Use hashtag NewsNation across any of our social media platforms here, and we can animate your comment here on screen. Angela Marie, hashtag NewsNation, hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyJB. I think the parents met with the lawyer to figure out how to bring Brian out of hiding and maybe turn himself in now that there is an arrest warrant. And I bring up this hypothetical that Angela brings up here for the simple reason that, and the simple fact that there's tons of speculation yesterday, and Brian was right on top of this. Brian Entin was right on top of this as far as the trip that they took in the morning, Brian Laundrie's parents taking in the morning, traveling to Orlando, and then resuming. And then, of course, Brian had the news soon thereafter that the reason was because the attorney, Stephen Bertolino, had flown into Orlando and that there was a meeting that took place in Orlando. Brian, while we have you here live for another few minutes, is there any new information here to Angela's comment here? Is there any new information about that meeting that occurred in Orlando?
Nothing really new. Obviously, it was a secret meeting, but there was a lot of speculation yesterday, and some other outlets actually reported that that the Laundrie parents went to Orlando to meet with a different attorney, a Florida-based attorney. That is not true, according to Mr. Bertolino. He's from New York. He flew into Orlando. Apparently, it was just an easy place for them to meet, and they drove there and met with him yesterday. What they talked about at this point, we really have no idea.
Let's get to the next comment here. While we have Brian here live, everybody, let's try to get to as many of the comments here. We're going to continue the stream, of course, for the next couple hour plus here as we continue to take your questions and comments here and report the very latest as it occurs here in the Tampa Bay area and across the country. But let's get to this next one here. This is a very astute observation here from one of our commenters, Kelly Hines, hashtag NewsNation. What are the reasons for changing the TFR, the temporary flight restriction? And yes, this is true. And I was going to talk about this earlier on stream, but Eagle 8 HC, of course, had to go to the barricaded standoff that is unrelated to the Brian Laundrie story, the Brian Laundrie manhunt. But the TFR, with temporary flight restriction, which of course gets rid of air traffic in an area that they need to clear air traffic from, the TFR over the search area has now expanded from 400 feet to 1,200 feet. So Kelly's right on the money here. And let me explain what that means. So the 400 feet TFR was put in place to clear any air traffic for drones that they were flying in the area. And we reported that several days ago. But now the TFR is expanded to 1,200 feet. And 1,200 feet is the average height that Eagle 8 HD and helicopters fly at in searches just like this one. So Brian, have you heard anything in the last hour as far as the TFR being changed? The first thing that I thought of was whether or not they're trying to bring in more air traffic and clear that altitude for additional as we bring in, I think Walt's bat phone is ringing off the hook here, as we bring in Brian and myself. Is there any reason that you have heard of as far as expanding the TFR to 1,200 feet? I thought that maybe it was for additional news choppers being brought into the area. And I'll also bring up here as well that before Paul Lamison in Eagle 8 HD left the scene, he was having difficulty finding search crews out there. So the search might be changing here or being re-strategized at this hour. Have you heard anything about that?
So I was listening to Paul this morning also when they changed the TFR and made the altitude higher. I mean, I think you're probably right. They're just trying to clear the area for the drones. When I was out there yesterday, it was interesting. It wasn't just the drones that you sort of think that you see and you think about what a drone looks like, there was almost like an RC powered plane, like a little plane that was higher than a drone, but it didn't have a pilot. They're using all sorts of different kind of technology out there, things that go higher than I'm assuming than a normal drone. And then they've also got like the FWC helicopter that's been out there. So I think they sort of probably just want the media and any private pilots to sort of stay out of the way. Noise could also be a factor. The news choppers can get kind of loud if they're trying to listen for something. So that's sort of my thought on it.
Yeah, and we have the same comment here from AMD on YouTube here asking about the TFR. And again, monitoring all your news, hashtag News Nation, hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions coming in here. Brian, but before we let you go, we know you have another, I'm sure, long day ahead of you here as you continue to report on this story for, of course, Nexstar Nation, our parent company's network news, News Nation and newsnationnow.com. Before we let you go, I'd like to just gain a little bit of perspective as to what this has been like for you to cover this story. You've been a journalist for a while, and you've covered many a story. What has this been like for you to cover? What has it been like for you to observe the public fascination, the international audience that is following the story? What has this been like for you to cover? And is there something that you can pinpoint as to why people are following this story as closely as they are?
Well, I think first of all, I would just say it's been sad. I mean, again, just thinking about Gabby Petito's parents, and we started out covering it, hoping that she was going to be found alive. Was this some kind of stunt? Was she going to be somewhere? Was she in hiding? Just hoping there was going to be some kind of happy ending to this. So it's very, very sad to now know the outcome with all of this. In terms of why I think there's so much fascination, I think partly because they were bloggers and they were active on Instagram, and there was this storyline out there that everything was so perfect with them. And I think the big turning point with this story was really when the police report came out showing the incident in Moab, Utah, and then especially the body camera video. It just showed that the image that they were portraying of this happy couple, that there was something else going on. And I think people got even more interested then. And I think also, which I'm sure you guys have been talking about, I mean, the fact that people at home can sort of help to solve this, like, regular everyday sleuths. You can go on Instagram, you can go on Spotify, you can find little details. And while it might sound crazy, I mean, these people are actually helping. Like, for example, the bloggers that were, in Teton National Park at the end of last month, and spotted the van on their dash cam, and then realized it weeks later and reported it to the FBI, and that's likely what led to Gabby's body. So I think people are so invested in this because they feel like they can actually make a difference, and they actually can.
Brian Entin reporting on News Nation and for newsnationnow.com. Brian, I know that you aired of course, News Nation airing a special last night for people that want to find that special, and for people that want to follow you and News Nation's ongoing coverage on the search for Brian Laundrie and on the homicide investigation of Gabby Petito. Where do they follow you? How do they watch the special? And where can they tune in to watch you on News Nation?
Yeah, so if you go to my Twitter, it's just Brian Entin. I put a link to the special last night. It's the full specials on YouTube, so you can watch it. And then News Nation, we're on every night. It's kind of hard to find on some cable systems, but it's on almost every cable system, and on Hulu and YouTube TV and all the rest. So if you go to newsnationnow.com, you can put in your zip code and it'll help you find the channel. And we're gonna stay out here just like you guys. I know it's a marathon, so you guys keep up the good work too.
Brian Entin reporting for News Nation. Give him a follow, folks, on social media. Give him a follow, of course, on air on News Nation and on newsnationnow.com. Hey, Brian, a big thanks for joining us. And big thanks for Walt was just saying big thank you as well, and continue the great work out there. We've been following every development on your Twitter page.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice meeting you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See you.
Brian, take care. All right, everybody, back here live with you on WFLA Now. Brian Entin, one of the finest, and really been leading the way here on this story on Twitter. So give him a follow, folks, because he's been right on top of it. We'll now cease from taking the hashtag News Nation comments here. So we're going to go back to taking hashtag HeyJB and hashtag HeyWalt comments here in the Facebook Live comment section. Really quickly here, folks, for our Tampa Bay audience here, I want to show you this. This is what I was talking about, a Hillsborough County sheriff's deputy being shot and hospitalized for a barricaded standoff that has occurred here in Hillsborough County. One more time, not connected to the Brian Laundrie manhunt or the Gabby Petito homicide. But this is another breaking news story that we're following on WFLA.com. And for our Tampa Bay audience, if you're looking for coverage on that, head over to WFLA.com and the WFLA app. But Hillsborough County Sheriff's deputies, they're on the scene right now and thinking about, of course, the deputy that was injured here and hospitalized as a result of the shooting. More coverage here on this story on WFLA.com and the WFLA app. Walt, what have you found out? Anything new in the last several minutes as we look through some more of the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt comments and questions?
That was a following up on a tip about gas stations and particular states that we will. It got me a little farther, but not quite ready to report it. But I think, and I have reached out to the FBI. I can only imagine how many emails they are getting on this. But we're trying to just figure out. I think at this point, $1,000+ used, unauthorized use of $1,000 from a debit card that we think belonged to Gabby Petito following her death. The use of this unauthorized use was following her death, according to the FBI. And we're just trying to figure out, how many transactions, I think at this point, how many. I mean, it makes sense. That's how he got home. And then, of course, it also makes sense that if you're driving back to Northport, I think we estimate 3-day drive. You could do it probably in 2, but he is alone. That's a lot of driving. It makes sense that would be the period, theoretically, when he was driving home, the 30th, 31st, and 1st. So we're working on trying to secure some knowledge about how many transactions, or did he get all cash, as someone has suggested, out of Wyoming, and then use that to get home. We do know he had some cash at some point because of the report of the hitchhiker. More than one hitchhiker now, I believe, is reported being picked up. I think he purportedly paid one of those people $200. So again,
that hasn't been confirmed by authorities, but
not
right.
Confirmed. I apologize, but we're just trying to sort of narrow down the big development from yesterday, which was the indictment for use of unauthorized access devices, also known as credit card fraud.
And I'd like to let you know here too. This is an interesting report from NBC News. Now, they spoke to an esteemed federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, national security expert, an expert who, and this is again, we are an NBC affiliate, WFLA is an NBC affiliate. So I'm reading this information from NBC New York and NBC News here, saying that what the national security expert that they spoke to said expects Brian Laundrie's parents to be summoned to a grand jury very soon. I mean, really soon, now that there's a federal arrest warrant. And the reason for that, according to this expert, is that, and I'll read this here for you, I would expect that to happen momentarily, to see them in front of a grand jury. And then if they're not going to cooperate, that they can get charged with contempt or obstruction, federal charges. So now that this is what we were talking about last night on WFLA Now. Now that the federal arrest warrant has been issued, what avenues locally, at the Florida state level, Wyoming state level, and federally, does that open up here to continue to try and track down Brian Laundrie's whereabouts? And Walt, you would imagine that the federal arrest warrant does now open up additional means here to get Brian Laundrie into handcuffs if he's out there somewhere.
Well, 100%. But that point right there, I'm sort of, I wish I would have, thought about that, because that's a very, very good point. The grand jury is a great investigative tool, because now you are, and let's piece the puzzle together. This arrest warrant was actually filed September 22nd, and the arrest warrant mentions the grand jury, the use of the grand jury. And so it's filed on the 22nd. That is Wednesday. The family meets with the attorney, according to Brian Entin, on Thursday. It could have been to discuss their rights when they appear before the grand jury. And obviously they have the right. They don't have to say anything. They can clam up at that point, but it does give the government the power to bring them in for questioning, to force them to come into questioning, raise their hand, and then if they want to, they can they can take the fifth and not talk, but it does give them that power, and that'll that possibly could lead to more information about Brian's whereabouts.
Let's also bring this up here too. For the first time, we haven't brought this up here on screen. There is now a $20,000 reward being offered by a Tampa area law firm, Buhoff Law Firm. And what they're trying to do, they say that they are a community law firm. This is their community. They have an office in Northport. This story impacts them, and what they are trying to do is increase incentive out there for somebody to come forward and give information. And I was, just kind of going off the cuff here last night saying that I wouldn't be surprised if there was another law firm that ups the ante, so to speak, as far as trying to increase the compensation that there would be for someone out there with information. And we had a very interesting comment come in here earlier here. And it was a News Nation. I said we were going to take hashtag HeyJB, hashtag Hey Walt comments and questions, but we'll go back to hashtag News Nation here for just one moment. Melanie Edgar, if the parents help find Brian or even family members, can they claim the reward? This is trying to keep the train on the tracks here, but this is the first question that we had pertaining to the reward here. I think first and foremost, there have been so many people that have just observed and thought it was extremely bizarre. Why aren't Brian Laundrie's parents out there looking for him? If he is a Carlton Reserve and he is missing, why aren't they out there? If it was my kid, Walt, I'm sure if it was your kid, 20 hours a day, and then the rest would be for eating and sleeping. But round the clock, give me the best boots that you can get from Bass Pro Shops. Give me the most high-powered flashlight. Give me something to protect me from the elements, a hat, a really, really good survivalist hat. Get me out there. There's nothing that police or anybody with the reserve here could tell me to keep me away from searching if it was my child. And I'm sure that you feel the same here. So
or at least come forward and make that plea that we've heard parents make before.
Totally true.
And maybe
right.
we've heard it in movies. I think.
Come to the podium.
Still,
come out in front of the house and say.
That's all I'm going to say. But then again, the plea. I mean, you're assuming at some point that that Brian has access to some sort of electronic device, which we have no idea whether or not he does. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Why not make? And we don't know that they're not, but it seems as though they're not trying to push the search to find their son at this point.
Yep. I'd be out there day and night. I know that there are a lot of parents out there shaking their heads or nodding their heads right now, saying that they'd be doing the same thing. There's nothing you could do. And at the very least, you're right, Walt. I would stand out in front of my house and look into the cameras and say, please help me find my child. And we haven't heard that. That hasn't come out. And that in and of itself is enough for people on social media here and for you, our viewers watching wherever you are, to say, that's not right. That's not right. Why aren't they out there searching or pleading for help? And they could be pleading for help in their own way to the FBI and to investigators here who have said that they are cooperating here. I have to. This is an important. I have to respond. Walt, can you continue the conversation here? I have to take this here for just a second.
Sure. So here's where we are right now. We know that we are talking about the search continuing for what is the fourth day, the sixth out of the last 7 days. They took 1 day off on Friday. The search began, just to look back, on last Saturday, a week ago, following the law enforcement entrance into the Laundrie home in Northport. And at that point, law enforcement was told that Brian's parents had not seen him since last Tuesday, which I believe is the 14th. So now they searched Saturday and Sunday. They entered from the Northport side. They took Monday off. There was a search, an FBI search of the Laundrie's house on that Monday, an extensive search. The parents had left at one point and came back. We do not know whether there was any questioning that went on at that point, but we know there was a search, and we know evidence possible evidence was brought out of the house. And then the search now has continued in devices like this. That's a swamp buggy going through the thick terrain of Carlton Reserve, 25,000 acres out there. We're told it's 75% water. There is a dive team as well. And they, again, are out there for the 4th day in a row, about 75 officers searching what you're looking at right there, searching for any clues. And now a manhunt, because on actually Wednesday, in a news release that was released on Thursday, but in a warrant filed Wednesday, Brian Christopher Laundrie charged with and indicted with a charge of what is basically credit card fraud, and at this point accused of using unauthorized use of a credit card, of a debit. The necessity for something like that vehicle right there, obvious out in that area.
I might have to step away here for a very brief time, 90 seconds here. If I get a phone call coming up here, we're a lot fluidly happening here. And this is what happens when we're live on stream here, everybody, as far as, the 24-hour news cycle.
It's what makes your format so unique.
Because something, if I have to take a phone call, a really important phone call, on what's going on here, I have to, and I have to step away here. So I'm just awaiting, whether or not I'll have to hop off. So Walt, I'm just giving you a heads up here. If I have to take this,
you want me to just?
If I have to take this phone call, I'm gonna switch over to Walt. Walt will speak for about 2 minutes, and I'll hop right back here.
And if you do that, I will take questions off my Twitter feed.
There you go.
Which they come in.
Thank you.
Josh
we've had
Benson
Melanie's
might be next, and he just walked in. We're rushing Josh.
We might have I have to keep. This screen is important. I got to put this screen
absolutely
right here. Okay. So let's get to some more hashtag. Hey, we've had Melanie's comment up here, and Melanie and her partner and that profile picture up here on our screen for some time. Melanie, thanks a lot for your question. Let's get to from Jade on Twitter. Hashtag Hey JB. Hashtag Hey Walt. Does the FBI in looking is just the wording of this tweet is a little weird. Does the FBI is looking and can arrest people that make Brian Laundrie fake accounts to mislead the investigation? Thanks. So this is an interesting. All right. So let's address that. There was at one point a 2-second live, or a fewer than 2-second live Instagram live that appeared to be from Brian Laundrie's account, and people were commenting at me all day and night, even around the clock, saying, oh my goodness, there was an Instagram live where we saw water and it came from Brian's account. There's no validity to that. Right. And it's very possible. I'm not saying that that it couldn't be true. What I'm saying is that there's nothing that has led us to believe at this time that's a credible thing. And you'd be surprised at how easy it is to fabricate that type of activity on social media. It's easy. And to Jade's comment here, Walt, if somebody does that, if somebody intentionally tries to mislead a federal investigation like this, somebody who makes a fake account and a fake video as a gimmick or just to have their moment, on social media, is that something that they can prosecute?
I would have to look that up. I don't know. That's a very modern crime, right?
It is. That's not a crime that exists 15 years ago.
I would bet if it was extreme enough that it could be prosecuted with, and there might even be a law about that. It sounds like interfering with an investigation, obstruction, some sort of thing. But it would have to be a major. There would have to be a major impact on the investigation. I don't think the FBI is going to run to a new location every time that somebody puts something on Instagram or on Twitter. But it is obnoxious, and it is not always a crime when you're obnoxious, or I would have been arrested a long time ago. But seriously, I don't know if that.
And let's be real. Illegal. The focus for federal investigators right now isn't these, a fabricated video or picture here and there. And I know there's a lot of comments in the queue about Canada, potential sightings in Canada. And again, we, because of how many adept people there are with programs such as Photoshop and Premiere and After Effects, Adobe,
it's so much easier.
So much easier to fabricate things.
It gets easier every single year to fabricate. It's something, by the way, we are very alert about with our parent company, and here at WFLA, we are double, triple checking, quadruple checking things because of that fact that accounts can be spoofed, fake text messages, all that stuff. And so we are careful because, hey, everybody, that is the definition of fake news. It's not the definition we've heard over the last few years. That is the definition of fake news. It doesn't exist. It's made up, and we are leery of that. I'm sure the FBI is leery of that as well.
Walt Petito, JB Buno here with you live. And again, we'll stay rooted in reality. That's our commitment to you. And there's, okay, I got to keep things focused on the comments that are coming in here, the questions and comments that are coming in here. And again, if there's information that I can share to you, our audience here, I will pass that along. You have my word. We are as transparent here, but we also, I think that if our audience here has watched for long enough now, they know that we are going to give you information when we can report that information, and we don't know exactly what's happening at this moment as far as the search efforts there. Let's show you a live picture of the home base of the search efforts here. That's live here. You can see a media member there off in the distance doing a report on air. And these are some of the cars here that are parked near Carlton Reserve, or at Carlton Reserve, really. And this is, again, live from Carlton Reserve here. But we haven't, Paul Lamison noted that the search looks very different from the air today. Very, very different. In fact, Paul was noting that he was, with how vast the area is, they've had difficulty from the air. Eagle 8 HD has as far as finding, finding search crews on the ground in the ATVs and in the swamp buggies. So that could be for a couple of different reasons. The search could be moving and expanding and growing and focusing on different areas. And also at the same time, let's not forget that the TFR altitude has been increased. So Paul, the higher up that he goes, we can only zoom in so much. We have a state-of-the-art camera on Eagle 8 HD, but we can only zoom in so much. And he's at an altitude of about 1,500 feet. Eagle 8 HD is when he's over the search zone, when Paul's over the search zone. So there could be several different reasons as to why we have been having difficulty finding where the most concentrated search efforts are today at Carlton Reserve. But around this time, afternoon-ish, every day, Josh Taylor, Public Information Officer and Communications Manager for Northport Police, has been sending out updates, and we could get that update here, Walt, in the hour ahead here. I know that Josh Benson is standing by here to swap in with you here next. Walt, before we lose you here, what are you tracking here at this hour? Anything new coming in, and what are you going to be monitoring here in the hours ahead?
We're going a little deeper, we hope, at least, into the one-count indictment, the one-page indictment, to sort of get a better idea, give our viewers a better idea of of this aggregated $1,000 allegedly used through an unauthorized use of a Capital One bank card that we believe belonged to Gabby Petito. And the use of that started, as we've said many times, 30th, 31st, and 1st, which would coincide with the 3 days that we believe, or the period that we believe Brian Laundrie was traveling back to Florida. And we have there's road cameras that capture that van coming into Florida, I think around 10:30 on the 1st. So $1,000 spent illegally, according to the feds, spent from the 30th to the 1st. And there we have some reports of sightings at gas stations along the way that we're trying to track down. So we're working on that, and also working on a story about this now condensed timeline, this the truly tragic part of the timeline, a fight in a restaurant in Jackson, Wyoming. And then between that on the 27th and the 30th, which is when the use of this credit card, this debit card happened. We believe that is sort of a very key period, a horrible period of time in Gabby Petito's life. And you've said it many times, we don't lose sight of the fact that this was a smart, goal-oriented, telegenic, if you will, not that necessarily that matters, but still somebody who had gone out there, welcomed many people into her world, and showed these, they were beautiful pictures of a part of the United States some of us may never go to, right? It's a beautiful part of the United States, natural landmarks. And to think that it started in July and ended this way, and we, like many others, are going to follow this to its conclusion and try to bring you the information in a very responsible way, sort of to help our viewers understand exactly how the process is working with this, and what's being done by law enforcement to get answers and find a man who is still a person of interest, although in the homicide investigation, but a full-on suspect in this credit fraud case. One quick point, not to make light of it in any way, but this, again, person of interest in the homicide case, but the fact that this indictment gives the feds more power to potentially bring the parents in for questioning and under oath, but also more power in their search. I mean, this is the most extensive search for a credit card case probably in our history, but it is an important step for the feds to be able to sort of tag a crime an alleged crime to Brian Laundrie's name.
Walt Petito, give him a follow, folks, on social media here. And Walt, where can they find you? What's your account on social media?
WFLA Walt, all of our accounts. So
there's no other Walt at WFLA. You got that? You got that account, huh?
Yeah, weird, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Walt Petito, everybody, joining us here, everybody on WFLA now.
And that's the Facebook page too. But I appreciate the follows. Try to answer as many questions. Got just bombarded with questions and some solid tips or some ideas on where we go next with our stories. I at first I was able to answer them all, but like you, it's been hard to keep up. But I do plan on doing that in my spare time, just because I think, I appreciate people who reach out to us. And, those social media accounts for us is not about monetizing anything as it would be maybe about Instagram, or for us, and for me especially, as I say in my bio on WFLA, I waited tables in college. I still work for tips, right? It's all about tips, and we'll track down any tip about this story or any other story that is worth tracking. We do that. That's really what we do.
And really, here's the thing too, folks. It's difficult for us to get to all the hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt questions and comments while we're on the air, but Walt's been doing a phenomenal job as far as addressing some of the comments that have been coming in on his actual WFLA Walt Twitter and Facebook account. So give him a follow, folks. If you've been, I know that there's frustration out there from people that have been trying to get through and get their comments animated up here on screen. It's because we receive thousands, really tens of thousands of comments per day with the hashtags. It's really difficult for us to get to even 1% of them. So we're going to do our very best here to answer more. But if you want a more direct line of communication to us, you can follow me at WFLAJB on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, Walt Petito on the social media platforms there as well here. All right, folks, I was just informed here a short time ago. Walt, thanks a lot. We'll catch you soon. Thanks. I was just informed here a short time ago that right before Eagle 8 HD was diverted to Hillsborough County, that Paul left us a Look Live report here. So this was Paul Lamison about an hour ago here over the Carlton Reserve.
We're over the Carlton Reserve, and you're looking at the command center of the manhunt for Brian Laundrie. The only new breaking news that we have so far today is the temporary flight restriction, or TFR, is up at 1,200 feet. It had been down to 400 feet, really to prevent drones from flying and getting in the way of the searchers. Right now it's up to 1,200 feet, so we are flying at 1,500 feet above the TFR. The difference is we're just a little higher than normal, so we can still see the area, and we're still watching the search area, and we're still watching as they fan out into this vast area of Carlton Reserve to search. And we'll be over here and let you know if anything new happens in Eagle 8 HD. Paul Lamison, 8 on your side.
Back here with you live on WFLA Now. Back to the next contributor here, everybody. You know him well. It's JB Squared now.
That's
Josh
right.
Benson, JB Buno here with you live on WFLA Now. And I think we're moments away from being joined by Allison Henning, who might have an update for us here from Carlton Reserve. The very latest on where the search stands right now, the manhunt for Brian Laundrie. Josh, what's caught your attention here at this hour?
Well, I'm catching up on everything. Obviously, we had talked about yesterday if there was even going to be a search today. I remember they sent the PIO sent that out yesterday, wondering if there was going to be a search. Obviously, they're back. They got there early. I saw that they adjusted the flight restriction a bit. I saw Paul's update on that. And the buggies are back out. Is this today video? Yeah, the buggies are back out full force. What a development last night, though, with the federal warrant. I mean, that kind of came out of nowhere from FBI office in Denver. That was a big deal because obviously this turns this into a manhunt now, and this is the first day of searching for someone who's wanted as opposed to someone who's missing in this case. So I'm happy to see them back out there today. I didn't know what was going to happen today, if they were going to even be back there. So it's good to see them out there. I know that's a tough job. Look at the video. It's incredible. The heat. It's one thing to see the conditions out there and how bumpy and the landscape, but you think about the humidity, JB, you know how humid it is. It's cooled off a little bit. This morning was actually pretty nice, but
We were talking yesterday about how big my hair gets during the summer.
right.
You want to know why? It's Florida humidity, and that's my story, and I'm going to stick to it.
Yeah, I know the pain.
But it's daunting out there for crews. These are challenging conditions.
Yeah. And so I think how many days they've gone on now? This has been several days, if not weeks of searching. So it's good to see that they're still back there.
Josh, I want to let you know the same thing that I had to let Walt know here a moment ago, and I'm being very candid with our audience here. I am expecting a phone call here in a few minutes that I have to take. And if I do get that phone call, I'm going to have to scramble very quickly here to get...
The captain of the ship is leaving?
The captain of... No, well, you're the captain of our ship for...
I can manage while you're gone.
Thank you.
We'll keep it afloat.
We'll keep... Yes, we'll throw Josh here on screen. And again, I've been told now that I am going to receive that phone call in just a few minutes here. And if I can, I will share a little bit about that if I can. There's
So it's a good phone call?
It's yes, it is a good phone call.
Okay.
It's a good phone call.
A business call or a personal call?
No, it's
Am I getting too deep in the weeds?
It's not
here?
a personal call. It's not a personal call.
Oh,
well,
good.
It's personal to me, but I can't.
Look at the tease he's got.
No, I'm not. But I'm not trying to tease people. I'm just letting you know that if I have to dip out of here really fast and I have to throw you out.
This is what happens when you're big time.
No, I'm not big time. That's not how this works. I appreciate everybody. Josh is.
We got to lighten the mood a little bit.
Yeah, Josh is the man. A pal of mine here at WFLA. And,
is that the call?
That's not the call.
Okay.
That's another call.
Sorry, I was getting excited.
There's a lot of phones, a lot of screens.
Wire in here. So we can at least
my viewers, our viewers have my word is what I'm trying to say, that if I can share a little bit about that phone call, I will.
Great.
I will. And if I can't, I can. It's just a matter of circumstances here. And it's a matter of being a good person in this world and being an honest reporter. And I know that sounds like an oxymoron to some. I know that there are people out there that have been criticizing the media in recent years for this and that. But you know what? Journalists have hearts too. we do have hearts, and we do try to treat the stories that we cover with compassion and with the accuracy that they deserve.
Absolutely.
We're going to try to get Allison Henning. I believe that she's on standby here, and we're going to be bringing her in here momentarily in the next couple of minutes for an update from Carlton Reserve once we get her lined up here and in position from Carlton Reserve here. Again, JB Buno, Josh Benson. You can see the new hashtag here, hashtag Hey Josh. And of course, hashtag HJB. That's always pretty much here on WFLA Now. We'll take your questions and your comments coming in here, and we'll try to take this next one that just came in here a moment ago.
Did you go over, I think it probably did the memorial service, the visitation for Gabby Petito. Did you go over those details?
That's a good opportunity. I have not had a chance to read them thoroughly yet. And that was all happening while we were starting our stream.
So what do you got? A few hours ago, but I can go ahead and bring you up to speed on that. I've also posted on my Twitter. If you go to twitter.com/WFLA Josh, I'm posting constant updates there throughout the day. But this memorial visitation for Gabby Petito has been announced. It's happening on Sunday from 12 to 5 at Maloney's Holbrook Funeral Home. It will be open to the public. It's in New York, Holbrook, New York. It's 825 Main Street, Holbrook, New York, 11741. So that has been announced. And since that was announced, we did get a tweet from Joseph Petito, the father, and how heartbreaking to have to tweet that out. A picture of his daughter, again, on my Twitter feed if you want to check it out. Services for our sweet Gabby will be held at Maloney Funeral Home in Holbrook on Sunday, September 26th from 12 to 5. Thank you to all for your support and love. So a sad update, but nice to see they're moving forward with closure and getting that memorial visitation in place. I know there was some questions yesterday as to when that could happen, how fast they could do that, how fast they wanted to put that together, but that is set. So we'll have updates on that for sure. As of today, in terms of other updates, I'm sure you guys have been going over the Carlton Reserve. That's usually what the day's events are about. And the conditions out there were some pictures that were sent from Josh Taylor, the PIO, and some video about just the conditions. Obviously they got some rain throughout the day because they're in some major puddles with those swamp buggies. And also with the airspace, there's a new flight restriction there that has been raised a bit. We heard that from our pilot and our helicopter reporter, Paul Lamison. He brought that up too. I think that was, let me go back to my notes on that, just so you guys are aware. I'm sure you talked about it. There's now a new temporary flight restriction, TFR, up to 1,200 feet over Carlton Reserve. It had been at 400, and Paul says we can still fly at 1,500. So that was about 3 hours ago.
Let's bring in, and I'm going to step aside here. I'm going to let you talk with our, of course, our esteemed reporter joining us from Sarasota County, Florida. Of course, Venice, Florida, where the search continues, the manhunt continues for Brian Laundrie. We're now bringing in 8 on your sides, Allison Henning there. No, that was still the button here for News Nation. Brian Entin will come back to he's
running so fast we don't even see him. He's so busy.
A lot of touchscreens here. Now we have Allison here on screen. Hey there, Allison. What do you got? What's going on there where you're standing? I'm sure the search efforts, of course, the manhunt continues on. And we were talking whether or not there's new life here in these search efforts, in this manhunt that is ongoing here for Brian Laundrie now that we have a federal arrest warrant.
Yeah, so day 6 of ground searches out here at the Carlton Reserve. You know, there hasn't been as much activity from what we could see, obviously, at the entrance. Of course, we cannot go inside. I know when Paul was flying overhead earlier, he saw them meeting right around 9:30-ish. And then shortly after that, when he flew back out, he was texting me. He let me know that it appears that the search efforts today are actually a little bit over on the east side, closer to where they were searching over the weekend. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, the ground searches appear to be focused more on this Venice side, but that's kind of where he was looking today, you know, from the chopper, obviously having to be a little higher up today because of those flight restrictions. But he didn't see anything. He was asking me if I was aware that they moved somewhere else, but he finally made it over to the other side. Of course, it's 25,000 acres, so it's a pretty large preserve out here, and noticed that some more of the activity was actually happening on the other side, the Northport side of all this, by the Mayacahatchee Creek Park, I believe is what it's called. Forgive me if I'm not saying that exactly right. But yeah, so that's kind of an interesting development today. Of course, we've seen those swamp buggies, the ATVs. Of course, we've seen some of those underwater. We've seen the boats, the divers, all that over the last couple of days. But in terms of activity coming in and out today, it has been kind of slow, honestly, compared to the last couple of days. One thing that we do know, there has been a lot more manpower out here. Yesterday, the most manpower we have seen out here all week, I think 75 individuals from 16 different agencies, which was a big jump from what we were seeing earlier in the week.
Yeah, Allison. Hey, it's Josh. Good to see you again. I was out there with you on Monday in front of the house in that torrential downpour. So first question, have you seen rain like that since you've been out there?
No, thankfully not for all of us, right? Especially for those crews out there. You know, I'm lucky enough to have an umbrella overhead protecting me from the sun right now. But yeah, the umbrellas the other day when we were getting those torrential downpours really weren't doing us much good because it was just such heavy rain. So I can't imagine what that must have been like for the people who are out here searching. But no, thankfully not. It's actually been a bit drier. I was talking to JB about that yesterday. You know, the oppressive heat, I think when you were out here, was definitely oppressive heat. It was very humid. As soon as you step out of your car, you start sweating. It's actually been a little bit drier out here, which I think is good for everyone. It's good for us, and it's definitely good for, you know, the folks who are out there searching in this heat. Yeah,
great. And you know, a lot of people are talking about that reserve still, even though we've been out there for many days, and just trying to gain an idea of the sheer expanse, how big it is, that 25,000 acres. But when you're out in front there, are there several roads that go into it, or is there one entry point? How is that broken down when you kind of drive around the perimeter?
So we're actually standing on Border Road right now, and if you look behind me here, I'll have Justin kind of zoom in. There's kind of that dirt, it turns into from a pavement road into a dirt road, and that is Border Road continuing on. And that appears to be kind of like their southern boundary line of the search, according to what Paul has seen over the last couple of days from the sky. And where that sheriff's office vehicle is right there on the left, on the north end here of Border Road, there is another roadway that kind of goes up and around. So we've seen officers, deputies coming in from actually both. More so making that left turn here onto South Moon Drive, but we have seen some also going straight down Border. But again, you know, in terms of seeing activity from here, we really can't see much except for them coming in and out, coming in the morning, and then of course coming out in the evening with all of that gear covered in mud, really.
Hey, just got a quick question from Eli Wolf on my Twitter account asking, will there be a live stream feed for the Gabby service? Eli, good question. I'll look into that to see if we can get an answer for you, because that, again, is on Sunday from 12 to 5, I believe. So that is open to the public. We will track that information down. But again, that just came out earlier today, so we will find out. Allison Henning is live outside at the Carlton Reserve. You've been out there a few days now, so you say not too much excitement actually out there today. Is it, you know, the governor put out a tweet the other day saying he was going to increase resources for, you know, those who are out there working. Yesterday, 75 crews, 16 different agencies, or 75 individuals. Is it a bigger increase today that you've noticed, or about the same?
You know, actually, we don't have that information just yet. We kind of stay in touch with Northport PD because they are kind of the lead in terms of this local search under, of course, the FBI's criminal investigation that's ongoing. And they usually send us an update right about now. I'm actually going to peek in my email here real quick and see if we do have any sort of an update from them.
Yeah,
not that I see just yet.
Okay, while you do that, JB stepped away and I don't have access to the comments. So if you guys want to leave comments on twitter.com/WFLAJosh, I can grab some right here, like Eli's question just now. And if you have any questions for Allison, let me know.
Yeah, I don't see an update from Northport PD just yet, but usually we get that probably within the next hour, and they've been doing a really good job of telling us exactly how many people are out there. I think on Tuesday it was 40, 50, the next day 10, 12 more, and then of course 75 yesterday. And I believe when they first started this, it was 8 agencies. So they've doubled the number of agencies that are out here now, of course, from all across the region. We've seen Bradenton. And then there's, of course, the state agencies. We've seen FWC. Actually, FHP was out here yesterday. I know they were utilizing their drones as part of the search yesterday. So, yeah, it's really pretty expansive.
You know, and it's interesting. This is the first day of the search after the federal warrant went out, and this changed from a missing person investigation now to a criminal investigation and a manhunt, essentially. I'm curious to know if they are going to change their strategy at all. I mean, their strategy is pretty broad, just search as much as you can with the fewest amount of resources you have. But I'm anxious to see if they say anything about the fact that now there's a warrant and there's more immediacy to find this guy.
Right. Yeah, I'm curious about that too. You know, we talked about, I feel like the investigation or the search out here yesterday intensified a little bit just in terms of those numbers. But of course, we got that information about that warrant later in the day. So yeah, I'm curious to see that as well. It's interesting that Paul noticed them kind of focusing on the other end today, because it has been pretty consistent on this side, pretty focused actually. I know yesterday the commander who is leading this for Northport Police, he told us that basically what they were doing is breaking these teams into different groups and sending them to specific areas that they had marked, and then doing a line search in those areas or a grid search through those areas. Not sure if that strategy has changed today. Obviously, they are in a different area, so we'll have to kind of wait and see, you know, in terms of what kind of coordinated efforts are happening today, especially if we're talking about the other side of this preserve. I mean, we're talking about different cities. I'm in Venice right now. The other side is on the Northport end, closer to the Laundrie's house, actually.
That's how big it is. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, I've been waiting for numbers from them. I don't think I've heard anything about the you know, like when there's a wildfire, it's 20% contained. When there's a search like this, is it 50% covered? Have they given you any kind of number of how much ground they have covered since the start of this search?
So I did ask that question to Northport Police yesterday, and I asked either, you know, for an acreage count, obviously 25,000 acres, or I asked for a percentage of the total. Unfortunately, he was not able to give me an exact number. He said, you know, we've covered thousands. They've been doing those ground searches. They also did aerial searches. He said, you know, technically from the aerial perspective, we've been able to cover it all, but from the ground searches, he wasn't able to give me even a percentage on that.
Right. And no idea of any upcoming news conferences at all. Rich Jansen wants to know if police or FBI stated they're going to give a news conference on the search, the arrest warrant, or anything. Have we heard internally on any news conferences coming up? I haven't specifically. I don't know if you have.
No, I have not either. And, you know, I wonder if that would happen here or if that would happen somewhere else. Of course, we've got, you know, the New York element, we've got the element out west, and we've got the element here in Sarasota County. So
right.
Not that I have heard, you know, and that information I believe would come through FBI Denver at this point.
The boss on Twitter, on my Twitter account, asking this question: is today expected to be the final day searching the reserve? When will it be open to the public? So we assume it's closed to the public because it's an active search. Do they have any idea when that could resume, or it's kind of a day-by-day thing?
Yeah, I think it's a day-by-day thing. You know, this area, I think it's pretty heavily traveled by people who like to bike, right? So we've seen people trying to go in to try and get on the trails out here. Actually, I talked to one guy who lives in Nokomis. He said this is a pretty regular spot for him to come, not so much in the rainy season, but he did come to check it out today, but he was not able to get on the property. So I imagine as long as this search is going on and as long as there is probably an open investigation, it's probably going to be shut down to the public for some time until, you know, until they clear this area, really.
Colleen Kane asks, has there been confirmed information to indicate that Brian even entered this reserve? And as far as I'm concerned, it was mostly coming from the parents saying they, you know, he had mentioned to them, according to them, that he went there to meditate. His car was there. They went to pick up the car from the reserve. And I think that's what led the authorities to start searching this area. And again, yesterday we had a pretty in-depth conversation, JB and I, about how we don't know everything. Obviously, the police know. And this could be, they could have a lot more evidence as to why he could be there, and if that's even the case. But as to answer your question, Colleen, I don't think we have definitive proof that he was spotted there or was seen there, unless, Allison, you have something different.
No, that's right, Josh. So, I mean, it's what, 1 week now. Today marks 1 week since Brian Laundrie's parents reported him missing when, you know, they invited the officers with the Northport Police Department, the FBI, into their home, and then they came out and we later learned that's what they were talking about, that he is missing. Yeah, so all that information, they said that they had last seen him on Tuesday, I believe it was the 14th, and they said that, yeah, he left with hiking backpack and everything like that, and they said that he came out here. But again, all that information is according to the parents, and that's the information that law enforcement is going off of. But yeah, you know, in terms of withholding information, they've been saying this since the beginning. Obviously, this is a very complex investigation. It covers so much ground. And they said that's really important for them to do, you know, to protect the integrity of it, because there are so many different elements in different places. Right. There's social media, there's tips coming in from people all across the country. So yeah, there's definitely, I think, a lot of information that we do not know, and there's a reason for that.
JB's back. Did you get your phone call?
I did, and I can share some details. Oh. Allison, anything else before we let you go? I've been off stream here for just a moment, but anything else before we let you go?
No, that's it for now. I mean, we're going to keep monitoring the activity out here, and I'll have reports at 4, 5, and 6 tonight. So anything new, we'll certainly be including it in those reports.
Quick question, Allison. One last question from Shelby. She wants to know from Allison if you've seen the lawyer for the Laundries out there, either at the home or the search area at all through your time out there.
No, we have not. Yesterday, actually, when we saw that vehicle leaving the property and everything with a marked police vehicle, we later learned that they went to Orlando to meet with their attorney. I was curious, where did they go? Did they go to the police department?
Yeah.
Did they go to the site here? But yeah, no, we found out they went to Orlando to meet with the attorney. But no, we have not seen the family or any attorneys out here on the grounds that we have at least been made aware of or been able to see with our own eyes at least.
8 on your sides. Allison Henning reporting for us at Carlton Reserve. Allison, Josh, thanks a lot for carrying on the conversation here. Allison, we'll let you get back to it. And big thanks to Justin out there as far as your photographer doing a phenomenal job out there. Pass along our best to Justin. All right, back here with you live, everybody, on WFLA Now with Josh and myself. Okay, so yeah, so Josh, it was I guess a tease for me to say that I had a very important phone call to take about 10 minutes ago. And it was an extremely important phone call. And so first and foremost, I want to say that I'm allowed to share out this information unless, oh yeah, it's right here. Let me just show it to our audience because it has to do with these, the bracelet and the bracelet that I'm wearing here, the prayers for Gabby bracelets. So let's kind of talk about that here for a second. There you go, Colin.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter about that.
All right, so here's the phone call that I just took here a moment ago was a FaceTime phone call with Nicole Schmidt, with Gabby Petito's mom. I have been in touch with Gabby Petito's mother. The Gabby Petito family, the Schmidt family, has been watching us on WFLA Now, watching us, and they've been very touched by how we have approached this story with compassion, that we have approached this story with accuracy. They, even with all of the grief that they are currently experiencing, I guess the warmth that we have tried to wrap this story in, as far as this being about Gabby. And yes, there's a manhunt underway. And yes, that's what, of course, people want answers for. But why do they want answers, Josh? They want answers because they want justice for Gabby.
Sure.
And so we have really tried to keep that at the core of our message and at the core of our reporting here on WFLA Now. And that has reached the ears of Nicole Schmidt and of the entire Petito and, really the Schmidt family. They've been very touched. And I've been actually in contact with them over the last several days, but I could not really necessarily share all too much about that because I promised the family that I wouldn't. And I told them that I would only share what they want me to share. And that's a very important thing for us to do as journalists here. We're not here to get us, to scoop somebody in grief like that. We're not here to capitalize on somebody's tragedy and the heartache that they are experiencing here. I can't speak for others out there, but I know that the good journalists in this world would never do something like that. It's about telling a story with compassion and with accuracy. And Josh knows exactly what I'm talking about here. And there's local journalists across the country that really do value that part of the job. And what has happened over the last week is that our WFLA Now live streams here have reached the Schmidt family, and they've reached out. They were the ones who reached out to me earlier this week. It was a message of sincere appreciation. And then some, there have been some phone calls, a lot of text messages, FaceTime. And I grew up in New York. I grew up in Queens and then Long Island. I know where this family, where their community is. I know how this community rallies. I have very interesting, just random connection over the course of just getting to know this family over the course of the week. I have very random, can you believe it, connections.
Small world stuff.
Even in New York can be a small place, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And so I just got off FaceTime here with Nicole Schmidt, with Gabby Petito's mother. And it was a brief call. It was just to kind of catch up, and I wanted to just talk to her really briefly as far as sharing out a message here for the family. The family wants justice for Gabby. They do. They want justice. But they also want this to be treated with the fact that this is all about Gabby. And Gabby was a wonderful human being, a phenomenal person. She lit up the world. She lit up this family. They're grieving right now. And what they have done here to try and symbolize and bring it all together and symbolize her memory is this right here, these bracelets. Now, family, friends of the family, and I want to make sure that I have my facts right. The family has been dealing with funeral arrangements. Josh was sharing out the funeral arrangements here just a moment ago. The family has been dealing with funeral arrangements. The attorney, Richard B. Stafford, of course, and it's been a team effort there as far as the Schmidt family, as far as putting all of this together as to honor Gabby and to give her, of course, the funeral service that she deserves because she has touched the world. Her social media posts, her YouTube videos, her wonderful smile, all of it has touched the world, and they are trying their very best here to put together a funeral service that is befitting of Gabby's memory. But the family's friends have rallied here, and they have put together these beads, these bracelets, and this is the Prayers for Gabby bracelet right here. And I've been receiving. We talked about this yesterday, and when we talked about it yesterday, I told our audience here that at this time, and it remains at this time, they're not selling these bracelets. It's not a bracelet that you can buy. There's so many people that want to help out this family. Mm-hmm. They want to help out this family so badly that they would, if this was a $20 bracelet, even though it's probably less than $1 to make at your local arts and crafts store, they would pay whatever if it meant helping out a family that is in tremendous grief and has had their world turned upside down. And at this time, it could change, but at this time, these bracelets are, and this is directly from Gabby's mom, Nicole Schmidt, who I just spoke to on the phone moments ago, saying that the bracelets right now are for the family, close friends of the family, and those that they want to give the bracelets to. And I am honored. I'm honored here to have touched this family. I am honored here to have had, I've tried to display some compassion here in this story, as have had our entire WFLA team, Josh, Walt, Allison, everybody has been trying to treat this with compassion. And I would just like to share that I'm extremely honored to wear this bracelet, and I will continue to keep this as focused on Gabby as we can. We have to, of course, keep you updated on the facts of this case and where things stand right now with the manhunt. People want justice for Gabby. We have a responsibility here, professionally, of course, here to keep things honed in on what we know right now as far as the exhausting law enforcement effort that is going on to find Brian Laundrie. But we also have a duty here, a commitment here to you, a promise to keep things focused on Gabby Petito and shed light on her in the way that the family wants. And it's a positive, shining, bright light. And we're going to continue to do so here. And so what we have for you on WFLA.com is we have a message from the family, some words from the family about how they want Gabby to be remembered. It's going to be available to you on WFLA.com and the WFLA app here momentarily, as we understand it. These are some of the words that they shared with me in some conversations over the last few days. And the FaceTime call, Josh, a few moments ago was with Nicole Schmidt. I just wanted to be 110% sure that she was comfortable with me sharing a little bit about how they want Gabby to be remembered, the words, be very, very selective of the words that they want to choose to represent what Gabby meant to them. And also, too, I mean, they FedEx or USPS overnighted these bracelets to us, to me here at WFLA. And I'm very touched, and I'm by the book. Josh knows I'm a by the book reporter. And I was just doing my due diligence as making sure that everything is being done here with the approval of the family. And it's all with love, and all of that, all of those loving words and that loving testimony is available to you. It's on WFLA.com. I'll read it here in just a moment. But Josh, that's where I was here for the last several minutes.
Pretty amazing. You know, and I want to tip my hat to you, obviously, JB, because when you look at a scenario like this, it's easy for reporters and journalists to get caught in the cycle of the news and to not have any compassion or forget the compassion that a family in this situation needs. I'll tell you a real quick story. I know I have stories all the time, but this is one that sticks out to me very vividly. Back in 1995, my cousin was an officer up in Minnesota, was shot to death at a traffic stop. So when that happened, I was really young, but I remember I was at the house and I was dealing with the reporters that day. Since I liked journalism and knew I was going to go into news, my job was to take all the phone calls from all the journalists. So I remember being on the phone in the kitchen, and back then it was a phone with a cord on it, not a cell phone. And I remember answering the calls and listening to the rude reporters who were under deadline who said, we need this, we need this, we need this. And there was one reporter from a station up there who was so good and was so calm and compassionate. And he came to the house, we dealt with him, and he was a pleasure to deal with. And so I think of that when you tell this story, because the stress the Petito and the Schmidt family are going through right now is unbearable. First of all, to have a missing child is hell on earth. And to find that child is just as much hell on earth. So our compassion and prayers go out to the family for sure. But JB, the job you're doing, and to be able to handle that throughout the week and keep that in and approach it with such compassion is a job well done. So I appreciate that. I'm proud to be a part of this team. And I think this WFLA Now stream that we do every day, you see how many eyeballs are watching it. This is important information on a big case, and people want to know accurate information that's going out. And I think we really work every day to try to make sure it's the most accurate information we can put out there with our entire team. So hats off to this team and to you for managing that and taking care of that with compassion for this family. And I'm glad you're talking to them.
Yeah. And it really, this is not exclusive to me, everybody. This is a compassion and a duty to commit accurate or report accurate information. That's what the WFLA News Channel 8 and the WFLA.com family is all about here. So our wonderful team of reporters and investigative journalists and anchors like Josh on the anchor desk, we're committed to telling the story with compassion, with grace, and with the accuracy that, of course, the Petito and Schmidt families deserve.
So these bracelets, can you tell us a little bit more about, because people are asking, can I get one? Where do I find them? How do I get them?
I would love. So I asked that question to Nicole, and right now they said that this is a beloved family, and the Schmidt family is beloved in New York and in their community, and they've had a lot of friends rally to them and build these and make these bracelets, and they say that their local store is out of beads. We got to get beads sent to the family.
And it's the blue color, right?
It is. It's it's like a turquoise. Can I show it like right there? There you go.
I think teal was the color that all the ribbons are up in New York.
Yeah, it's like a teal and a turquoise. I would imagine this is a color that, of course, meant a lot to Gabby and was.
Do you have an extra one over there I can see?
Yeah. I just passed them along.
Oh, okay.
To the rest
of our. Take a picture of one so we can put it out there.
Yeah. I think that Alexis, our digital content producer, is that story up yet? It is. Okay. Can you send it to me for a second? We'd like to show people the bracelet. And again, we're going to get back to everybody here. We're going to get back to telling you the latest here about the manhunt for Brian Laundrie, but we're just talking about an emotional, compassionate aspect of the story here for just a moment. So what we'll do is we're keeping things focused on Gabby here. There hasn't been any new developments here about Brian Laundrie and about the manhunt for Brian Laundrie in the last 20 minutes. Hey, let's talk about Gabby Petito for 20 minutes and give Brian Laundrie and that name a break. And we're back here with you live and with Josh Benson. And Josh, what do you got?
I was just trying to track down one of them. They're so popular around here, we can't even get one. So they're around the newsroom somewhere else.
Okay.
But no, we're working on a story to put it up, picture and everything, details on where you can get one that's coming momentarily.
Okay, so let's read some of the information now, and this is again on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and I will read here the story that we just published a moment ago. And let's see here what we got again from WFLA.com, and it's on our homepage. Here it is. It represents the bracelets represent Gabby. Remember to celebrate and enjoy life and not be sad. live every day like it's your last. And they end by saying, we'd love the whole world to wear them. And then, of course, that was when in my exchange with the family, I asked, okay, if you'd like the whole world to wear them, how can we make this dream a reality? And right now they're out of beads at their local arts and crafts store. So hopefully there can be, I don't know if we can help the family in any way. And I don't know if the family would want the help, or if this is something that's very intimate and just very, I don't know. I would really have to follow up with Nicole here, but again, wants the whole world to wear them. So maybe let me just describe here. I'll take it off, and I'll just kind of describe what the bracelet looks like. And if anybody out there is watching, and for example, we have viewers that join us from the UK and Australia and Asia, and people that have been following the story around the world. And maybe you want to make a bracelet like this because this story has touched you in a way that you want to, carry Gabby with you, and Gabby's memory with you. And so it's very simple. It's just a black string here, and with 3 beads, 2 smaller ones and 1 larger, it's more of a stone-like bead here in the center, and it's turquoise in color, like a turquoise color. So if anybody wanted to make their own bracelets, let's keep things in perspective here. Do not profit off of tragedy. This is an intimate symbol for the family here. So if you see anything that looks like this bracelet being sold online and they say it's authentic, just don't believe it, unless of course we report it or a credible news agency reports it as the real thing. So but if anybody wanted to make this at home for themselves, it's a lot of folks out there really are far more talented as far as arts and crafts than I am, but it's really simple. It's a black kind of elastic bracelet, and it's got 3 beads there in the center. And this is about Gabby's memory. It represents Gabby and living every day like it's your last. Josh, what are you reading?
I'm just trying to catch up. So the mom, Nicole, did she make the first set of these? And now she's trying to kind of get the. As
I understand it, it was the closest friends of the family coming through here and helping and saying, what can we do to help? And this was the conversation that ensued. And now we have these bracelets. Yeah.
Did she, you've been in touch with her. Did she talk any more about I can't even believe the week they've had. To find out what they found out, and now this manhunt that's on. How was her spirits today when you talked to her?
There was a somberness there in our conversation a short time ago. Nicole was, and this FaceTime call that just occurred about half an hour ago, this was after several phone calls and several text messages. I've not I want everyone to know here, it's not the person I am. I haven't bombarded the family. In fact, there were several times where the family reached out to me to speak. And I've just been, treating this with my family right now. We lost a loved one, the same one, in New York. We lost a loved one the same week that Gabby is believed to have passed away. And my family in New York is dealing with funeral arrangements right now.
Wow.
And so I have treated this story with sensitivity. And if people don't believe me, and for whatever reason they don't, I'm talking about my uncle. My uncle passed away the same week that Gabby is believed to have passed away, or within a 1 to 2 week period there. And he was FDNY. He was at Ground Zero, and he passed away. And right now my family is preparing a funeral in New York for David Buno. And it's on my Facebook page. If anybody really didn't believe me or think that I was fabricating this, but it's the truth. My family is preparing a funeral right now for one of New York's finest. It's been an emotional roller coaster for my family over the last month or so. So I get it. I get what this. I say that I get it. I don't have the media circus following me, but and the story hasn't blown up internationally. But what I'm saying is my family right now is planning a funeral in New York. Their family is planning. I've been respectful and keeping my distance and trying to only reach out to the family just to check in and see how they were and talking to them. But Nicole, to answer your question, Josh, Nicole was
as good as she could be, I would imagine. It's I think that she exhibited a lot of strength by with the FaceTime call that we just had. And again, it was just so that her and I could confirm some information and I could share
the message to you, our audience here, as far as what she wants her daughter to be remembered for, and to share that information out. But I would say that she was very somber, and again, several conversations over the course of the week with Nicole Schmidt. And there were conversations that I had with her where she seemed to have a little bit more of an upbeat kind of. She sounded a little bit more upbeat, but that's just over the phone. And I think that it's because she's been so touched by how many people have rallied to her side. It's been really, really, it's been extremely emotional for her and her family to receive all the love and support that they have. So I've spoken to her a couple times this week where she's been sounding a little bit better over the phone, and sometimes where it's been really rough. And if there's any other conversations that she gives me permission to share with you, our audience here, folks, I'll do that. But right now, what I'm doing here is just trying to give you a little bit of insight into what the family is dealing with. But let me tell you, the New York community has really rallied. That entire community has rallied behind the Schmidts and the Petitos, and this is really a touching moment for New York as they are really trying to celebrate the life, not the death, the life of Gabby Petito.
And just based on her social media pages at her Instagram, you can see how full of life she was. I mean, the smiles and everywhere she traveled, and just, you could tell she was a great person, fun to be around, just based off of that, just the attitude and the joy in her face in so many things. So yeah, what a loss. But the world is wrapping their arms around these families right now, and for Gabby, and really trying to help them get through this. So it's good to see that you've talked to them, and we can try to help do our part here at WFLA and keep putting out the information that's accurate and continuous on this stream.
Yeah, I think that our next reporter, and I'm getting the attention of our assignment desk here for a second, I think our next reporter is going to be Jeff Patterson coming in here momentarily. And if we can bring him in and bring in his live feed here, we'll try to bring Jeff in and gain, again, monitoring the very latest here on the Brian Laundrie manhunt here, and trying to give you an update as to what's going on. Because remember, at the core of the Brian Laundrie manhunt is the Justice for Gabby cause. People calling for justice for Gabby here. And of course, the belief is that it starts with finding Brian. And so, of course, we'll do our very best here to continue to monitor the latest developments here, and also stay grounded here as far as keeping this about Gabby Petito and her memory. But again, if you want to read more about what Nicole Schmidt had to say in our conversations, if you want to read more about what that's been like as far as the bracelets and what she had to say, it's on WFLA.com right now, where you can read the very, very latest here. But we're going to keep kind of chugging along here as far as the latest on the manhunt for Brian Laundrie. All right, joining us now, everybody, from outside of the Laundrie House in Northport, Florida, 8 on your sides, Jeff Patterson. Jeff, thanks for joining us here. And has there been any updates from where you are? What's the latest here on the Laundrie manhunt and what you're seeing here outside of the Brian Laundrie family household?
Good afternoon, JB. Well, of course, Brian Laundrie's parents have been mostly staying inside of their home. They left yesterday morning. We're told by their family attorney that they made a business trip to Orlando. They spent the majority of the time there. They came back yesterday evening. They did not say anything to the media. Media are, of course, shouting questions at them as they exited the truck that you see behind me, and they went into their home. The only thing they effectively did yesterday was go to pick up Brian Laundrie's Mustang that you now see sitting in their driveway. It had been processed for evidence, seized and taken away from them, but they were able to pick that up yesterday and come home. But that has been about it. We have not seen any sign of the family today. There have been people who have been coming by here. There's actually a lot of people from this neighborhood and even from surrounding areas that have been driving by here. The Northport Police Department has been stationed outside of the Laundrie home every time that they are inside of the house. And so the media has been basically camped out here along this street now for a number of days, just waiting to see if any statements are made by the Laundrie family, or if there are any more appearances by the FBI or local police to serve any search warrants or to gather any more evidence. But so far that hasn't happened. It was only the initial time when the FBI showed up and took a number of items out of the home that anything like that has occurred. Basically, it's now just turned into a very long waiting game to see what happens with the search with Brian Laundrie that is going on in a very large swampy preserve not too far from here. We're talking about an area, I'm told it's larger than the area of downtown Clearwater that they're searching, very swampy, as you guys have been talking about. Essentially, it was part of the Everglades at one time. We're that far south. And so it's a very difficult terrain to search, difficult for dogs and man trackers to get through water and try to follow anybody. But they have a lot of high-tech technology that they're utilizing out there that you've also pointed out. But basically here at the Laundrie family home, it's just been days of waiting to see what happens.
Yeah, Jeff, this is Josh. Good to see you. 4 hours ago or so, they had some groceries delivered. Did you see that? I mean, they have their blinds drawn and the lights are off. And obviously in this day and age, you can have your groceries delivered with pretty much no problem. So that happened today. And in the media out there, we were out there Monday. The media was pretty thick out there. What's the media status too?
Same thing. People have set up tents here, Josh. They're in the front yards of homes from some of the neighbors, and at this point, it's almost like a siege mentality. The family's kind of bunkered down in their home, and so they have not come out except for minimal occurrences.
Josh, it's Jeff, it's JB. Again, bringing you in here, and Jeff, you covered many stories here in the Tampa Bay area. Where does this fit as far as just the amount of attention that has been paid to this story, not just by, of course, the media, just by the world? We have an international audience here on WFLA Now, people joining us from Europe, people joining us from South America, people joining us from Australia. This Gabby Petito's name right now is circulating around the world, and a lot of attention being paid to the Tampa Bay area. Missing persons happen all the time in this country. Well, men go missing, men go missing, women go missing. Where does this story rank, or not even rank, but where does the story fit in for you as far as the stories that you've covered here in the Tampa Bay area and here in Florida?
One that I can recall back to early in my career at WFLA was Tiffany Sessions. She was a student at the University of Florida who went for an evening jog and was never seen again. And so there was a massive search for her. Hundreds of volunteers went into the area. Eagle 8 actually joined in the search way back then. And there were, media attention from everywhere because her family was from South Florida. So people from South Florida and North Florida all congregated in Gainesville because it was the shock of a University of Florida co-ed that went missing. And so that kind of hyper focus of attention was put on Gainesville for a time. Unfortunately, they never did find Tiffany's body. A few years ago, they came forward and proclaimed that they believe they know who the killer is because he had journaled about it in his jail cell, and then he passed away, and they found notations in his personal belongings that indicated that he probably killed Tiffany. But the family never had closure there. This is at least, there's some closure for Gabby Petito's family because they were able to recover her body. Obviously not the resolution that any parent wants, but now at least they have an answer. They know what is going on. But things have changed from that time when it was just all the local media, local newspapers, people tuned in. But now, of course, we're in the age of social media and instantaneous live coverage from professional news outlets to citizen journalists who are blogging about this, and then there are some cyber sleuths, if you will, people who go online who some of them are generating useful information, some of them not so much.
Right.
So that becomes a problem for law enforcement. They have to filter through all of the above to get to where they need to be.
Jeff, a lot of talk about how long this search goes on for. We talked to Allison Henning out at the Carlton Reserve. And it's a tough question because I know the neighbors are anxious to wrap this up. I know the family wants this to end right now. And either he's in the reserve, deceased or hiding, or else he is long gone. Any indication or even thoughts or your opinions on how long, based on other cases like this, would a search go on? I mean, it's 25,000 acres. We don't really have any idea how long that takes to search the entire thing. And when do they feel like, hey, this is enough? We've searched as much as we can. I think if he took off, and now that there's a federal manhunt for him, I think it'll be almost easier to find him because so many more people are involved. What are your thoughts on the search?
You know, it's incredibly difficult terrain out there. As I mentioned, at one time, historically, it was part of the Everglades. So I was talking to Allison Henning about this the other day. You know, the law enforcement has talked about 75% of the area out there is underwater. Well, does it ever get to be the dry season? And not really. I mean, there's areas, acres and acres, thousands of acres out there that are just going to be underwater. So, you know, if he did something to take his own life and didn't want to be found, there's a reasonable chance they'll never find him. However, if he's still alive, if he was facilitated in any way by someone that helped him escape this area, at some point, law enforcement will track him down. At some point, people make mistakes. They'll connect with somebody online, or they'll make a phone call, or they'll have to access money in a banking account. All of that is being monitored. You know, the FBI is incredibly sophisticated in their monitoring techniques of these kind of things. And so they'll look at not only Brian Laundrie's parents, but his circle of relatives and friends, and monitor what they're doing, monitor who they're reaching out to. And so, you know, if he's connecting with any family members, even if it's weeks or months or years from now, they'll track him down.
Jeff, it's JB again here, and I just want to share a bit of an update here, a development here in the last few moments. And Josh, I apologize if this update was shared while I was stepping away for that phone call with Gabby's mom. But Carlton Reserve is, of course, the search area, Jeff, and Paul Lamison with Eagle ADHD reporting here a moment ago on Twitter saying that the search now is really moving to the east at Carlton Reserve in that 25,000 acre reserve again, and moving to the east towards Northport, which is really interesting here. So, Jeff, can you give a geographical sort of a sense of, again, where, in relation to where you're standing right now, how far away is the Carlton Reserve, and kind of your reaction here to this news coming in that the search area now is shifting to the east, closer to where you're standing there in Northport?
You know, I really don't have a sense or knowledge of how far it is from this home to that preserve. But what I can tell you is, just based on my experience of covering manhunts of this nature, I can recall covering one up in the mountains of western North Carolina where there was a man who had murdered a state trooper up there. And so there was an intense manhunt for him for 4 days. And he was someone who had great experience in being outdoors. And so he essentially knew that he was being pursued, knew that there were canine teams that were after him, and he would double back and continue to double back, and he would spend the night up in trees to elude capture. And it took a long time for them to catch up to him. So if they are now focusing their search in one area, if they have credible information that they're going to one specific area because there was a sighting or they found something that indicates that he's still alive, that tells me a lot. That tells me that they're now trying to refocus their efforts in an area. If, like I said, they found him or found sign of a human presence out there, that gives them something to pursue in a much more direct manner. And that'll be helpful. I will say this about that search in North Carolina for that man who was eventually convicted of that trooper's murder. I went to the murder trial and was listening to his testimony, and he took the stand in his own defense and then later testified that he was up in the woods about 20 to 30 feet off of a roadway at a roadblock in the darkness and listening to a conversation between law enforcement and a reporter. And he recounted my conversation with the troopers at that roadblock almost word for word. And it was a little spooky knowing that a guy that was the subject of an intense manhunt had been just 20 yards or so or less up into the trees in the darkness, listening to us as law enforcement were searching for him. So if people are focused on evading law enforcement, obviously it can be done. So if Paul is now noticing the shift of the search area, maybe they've got something to go on now.
You know, it's interesting, Jeff, that Josh told a story on stream with us yesterday about a search that was wide-ranging and ended up the person that they were looking for was closer than you'd think. And that's the second time here that we've heard a story of a search, being quite expansive, and perhaps maybe that person that you're looking for isn't as far away as you'd think.
And it doesn't mean that if they've searched one area that they missed something, and if they come back through on the way out, that's how sometimes a lot of people are found, dead or alive, I guess.
So working
the other thing about this is that sometimes they're shutting down these searches basically at dusk.
Yeah.
And so and this is a big if, this is a lot of supposition because I have nothing to base this on, but if Brian Laundrie is out there watching them and he sees them search an area, when they come out of there, if they come out in mass, then he can essentially double back on areas that they've searched, and that opens up a lot of possibilities. So
but then again,
we'll see how this all plays out.
Yeah, heat seeking, LiDAR, that kind of thing, and drones are all going to aid in that too at night. You would wonder if that would be beneficial to put up a drone or something at night just for the heat issue. So we'll see if they're doing that.
Yeah, and just a quick note on that. Somebody commented that it's pronounced FLIR as far as that's the name of the
FLIR,
technology. So learning more. No, LiDAR is another technology that is popular as far as, or become popular here as far as there's LiDAR sensors on our phones now. But FLIR is the name of the thermal imaging technology that can be used to continue searches overnight. Again, folks, 8 on your sides. Jeff Patterson. I'm JB Buno. Josh Benson here with you. I'm on the right side of your screen with Josh. Jeff here on the left. We'll spend another few minutes here with Jeff, and you can see the hashtags all around your screen. We took a break there from taking your questions and comments, just as we were kind of talking about Gabby Petito's family for a moment. Let's resume now.
Yeah.
Taking your hashtag Hey Josh, hashtag Hey Jeff, hashtag Hey JB comments here. All the J's around here. Jeff, JB, and Josh. We'll look for those comments starting now here in the Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter Live comment sections here. And we'll start here with this one from Crystal Meggs. Hashtag Hey JB. Do you think that the police outside is for protection or as a tactic? Do you think the parents of Brian will ever break their silence? And Jeff, you're the perfect person to answer this question as far as right now, looking to your left, looking to your right, are there police stationed here outside of the Laundrie home?
Yeah, there have been basically nonstop. The only exception to that was yesterday after they left the home. We understand that there might have been undercover law enforcement that followed them for their entire trip when they went to Orlando and then followed them back home. I can tell you that about 20-30 minutes before the Laundrie family arrived back here at their home, Northport police stationed themselves again once outside of their the Laundrie family home where they have been. And it's probably a combination of all of the above. For one thing, this has been a great burden on people in this neighborhood in that you have a siege of the media that is here on their street. It's an incredibly wet area because of all of the rain that we've been experiencing. I've seen cars have to be towed out of, just off of the road because they get bogged down in the mud and the muck here. So you've got media in camp chairs and tents and set up all in these neighbors' yards. Some of the neighbors are actually charging members of the media to put the tents in their yards. So they're getting that. But I'm sure people in the neighborhood have complained to the Northport Police Department about, making sure that the streets are clear, that the streets aren't blocked, that they have access in and out of their home. The Northport Police Department has set up a detour to keep, as much of the traffic off of the street as they can because there were, sightseers basically coming by, in addition to the media that was here. So people from outside of the area have come there because they're fascinated and captivated by this Gabby Petito story. And so they just want to see for themselves. And so I would say it's a combination of all of the above as to why police are here. Number one, they're keeping an eye on the family. They want to know if, obviously, if Brian Laundrie shows up here at the home, but number two, where does the family go and how are they interacting with all of their surroundings? And then they're trying to protect the neighborhood.
Jeff, you spoke of the neighbors. You spoke of the folks that live up and down the street. And so let's take this one here from Shanna Graham here, hashtag Hey JB. Any more evidence of the the camping trip that the neighbors spoke of. And we've been talking about this here, Jeff, on stream, the Guthrie family speaking to Fox News and telling us about this possible. And again, this is from them, according to the Guthries who spoke to Fox News, the neighbors there who spoke to Fox News, saying that there was a 3-day camping trip, approximately a week to a week and a half after Brian Laundrie returned home in the area of September 1st. The camper there that we're talking about, as I understand, right there, obviously, but behind you here, has there been any updates or anything that you have heard regarding the camper now? We were talking, Jeff, on stream earlier this week about how the vehicles here have been talked about here as the story. The white van that was driven back to Florida from Northwest Wyoming. We've been talking about that Ford Mustang convertible, and now the camper here is really the subject of the most social media conversation here. So what do we say for Shanna's comment here about the camper?
So I've spoken to the Guthrie family too, and you can see, as you said, the camper is behind me. It's been here the entire time that I've been here, but the Guthries are saying that this happened before the media presence and before police showed up, that they believe Brian came back and that they all left on this camping trip before this all kind of blew up. And so I'm sure law enforcement is looking into that. They can track down, if Brian Laundrie or his parents or anyone spent money for gas or anything outside of the area, and they would be able to find out, based on their digital trail, if you will, where they might have gone. So, while we're seeing that massive search effort in the preserve, you have to know that behind the scenes, there's other searches going on, if you will, looking for the digital footprints that we all have and have left behind. Now, I was talking to somebody who has experience in law enforcement and these kind of things, and it's if Brian Laundrie is still alive, there's the possibility he has what is called a burner phone. He went and picked up just a phone that he can utilize that is not part of his normal digital footprint, if you will, but he could be able to communicate with other family members. But again, they would be wise, those other family members, to realize that law enforcement will be looking at their digital footprint as well. And so if they're reaching out to a number that is not familiar, then that's an avenue that law enforcement will pursue. And if somebody is culpable in facilitating Brian hiding, they'll face prosecution themselves. And that can be quite severe. So there are consequences for hiding out somebody like this, even if you're a friend or family member.
Well, and you got to think about the cost involved here too. A lot of people have just been talking about the sheer cost of this search and how much money is pouring into just getting this search done each and every day. That's something to think about as well. I have another question here from Katie Savage. Hey, JB, are you concerned the media coverage is giving the Laundrie family a heads up to where police are located at any given time? Jeff, what do you think?
I'm not concerned about that at all.
No.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that at all. Because as I mentioned, there's the massive search that's going on in the preserve, but then there's a lot of behind the scenes action. And it's notable in this indictment that was handed down for Brian Laundrie, fraudulent use of a credit card. That opens up the possibility for federal charges against him, which opens up the possibility across the nation of law enforcement resources being utilized. So we're not only talking about, obviously the murder occurred, we believe, in Wyoming, unless the murder happened in Utah and then he brought her body to leave it, or whoever brought the body to Wyoming to leave it. Let me just kind of back up there, because right now all we know is that a homicide has occurred and her body has been found. So we're not sure if that homicide occurred in Wyoming or someplace else. But the state laws would prevail in that case. That's not a Florida jurisdiction case. But the fact that interstate lines were crossed by Brian Laundrie and that he utilized her credit card, that is a federal crime. So that's why I'm saying that federal resources can be brought into this. And it's not just the search that we're seeing here at the preserve. There's all kinds of efforts being orchestrated across the country for this.
Hey, an update that came in on Twitter from Joseph Petito. Just now, we're talking about Gabby earlier today. In lieu of flowers for the service, please send donations for the future Gabby Petito Foundation. through the Johnny Mac Foundation at johnnymacfoundation.org. There's also a PayPal address too. So it sounds like they're in the works to create the Gabby Petito Foundation, which they're wasting no time getting on that, which is great to see. I posted that on my Twitter link at WFLA Josh if you want to check it out, even donate through their PayPal address. But just wanted to give you that update that just came down.
Yeah, Jeff, before we let you go here and get back to it, and I'm sure that I know it's been quiet there on the block relatively compared to yesterday, especially when there's, the trip to Orlando that we then found out was for legal reasons to speak to the attorney. Jeff, before we let you go here, what are you going to be monitoring here? I know that you're going to be coming up here tonight on WFLA News Channel 8, but what are you going to be monitoring here? And where does this story go now in your estimation? You've covered you've covered stories here in the Tampa Bay area for a long time. Where does the story go forward here? And what are you going to be monitoring here in the hours ahead?
Well, we're, of course, keeping an eye on the house just to see if, like I said, there is any more interaction with the Laundrie family and law enforcement, or if anybody else comes here. I can tell you that, people from outside of the area have shown up to put signs up and flowers in the yard. And so we'll have some of that coverage on Channel 8 later today.
8 on your side, Jeff Patterson. Follow him, of course, across social media platforms. And Jeff, we'll be back here with you live on your feed here if there's any developments, of course, on the block and at the home of the Laundrie family. Jeff, thanks a lot for joining us.
Great work.
All right, very good. See you guys. Thank you.
All right, Jeff Patterson, folks, on WFLA News Channel 8. All right, back here with you live.
I just want to give him all our reporters out there a tip of the hat, because that is a long, boring gig to sit out there and watch that house and do it day in and day out. Allison's been out at that search play, the field, actually, the reserve for almost 2 weeks, and it's just every day waiting for development outside the house every day. That's a big job. Sitting around waiting, it's a long, grueling job, but an important one because, finally yesterday we had something to report at the house, which was this, at the time, a mysterious trip, almost a day-long trip, or most of the day long trip to Orlando that the Laundrie parents took. And there was a lot of talk about, with the entire world following them right now. You're not going, as I said yesterday, you're not going to Orlando to hit up Universal and get on a roller coaster. Yeah, you're not going to Disney. You're going there for a very important reason. So what was that reason? And then again, of course, we found out later from News Nation's Brian Entin and from others that it was that the reason was that they were going there for legal reasons to speak to an attorney. Now, Brian Entin reported that attorney was Stephen Bertolino from New York, who flew down to Orlando to meet with Laundrie's parents. But then there was, of course, the additional report that said that no, it might have been with an additional, legal representative. And but News Nation is reporting, everybody, right now that it was a meeting with Stephen Bertolino. Stephen Bertolino saying that he did, in fact, meet with Brian Laundrie's parents. Back here with you live on WFLA Now. We're going to spend about another 20 to 30 minutes, roughly, taking your hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJosh comments here, and we'll now exclude.
Hey guys, what are you thinking? I think we've heard enough of their comments. We have our own, and our comments are 10 times better than that. Does anybody want to grab the link and come up? Hang on. We got some new mods in here. Got new wrenches. I apologize to you guys about the trolls. I don't even know where they came from, but woo, there was a couple of them. Watched you guys jump on them. That was awesome. Hello, my friend. How's your headache?
It's better. It's better. I thought.
Is it like sinuses or allergies or the humidity?
It's allergies.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah, the weather's been kind of funky. So I'm hoarse and my head hurts.
Hakuna Matata says, I would come up, but I have 2 rowdy kiddos here. Well, I know that feeling. The minute mom gets busy, the kids need your attention.
Yeah, they just seem to know. I have the same trouble with a husband and a dog. So
Well,
I
I'm
can
telling
imagine.
you, yeah. If you're just sitting there watching a movie, no one cares about you. And the minute you get on the phone or you start running a tub, it's like everyone's talking to you. Everyone needs something.
Yep.
So there was a few things that they brought up. Of course, they still don't have Brian. I think they'll find Brian. Now, it's just my opinion. I think that the meeting with the attorney in Orlando is to figure out a way to get him to coax himself out of wherever he's at. What is your opinion?
Well, it's to convince the parents, I think, more than anything, that they need to do something. Someone said something about they were having a grand jury convened to call the parents in. They can take the fifth, but still, I mean, how far does this mess have to go before reason hits their brains?
Yeah, you can only protect baby boys so long.
I mean, it's just been ridiculous.
And at this point is such a slap in the face to Gabby and her family. They never had an opportunity to protect her.
Right. That's the whole thing. And the best thing they could do right now is just to come forward and ask for him to come out wherever he is and at least pay that kind of respect to Gabby. And they're about to have her memorial service this weekend. That would be the opportune time for them to look better than skunks, which is what they look like right now.
Oh, I agree. And it's like the parents can't even go there on Sunday and mourn.
Right. They have to worry. Yeah.
Like it's like the grief is going to hit them much further out because of all they've had to process between her being missing, Brian sending that fake text message, and the Yosemite rings a lot of bells. His parents not telling them what's going on, having to get the police involved. The next thing you know, all of the country and other countries are looking at your family situation and they're just normal people.
Right. I mean, this is worldwide attention.
Mhm.
Not only does the neighborhood see how you are, or the city see how you are, the state or the country, but the whole world. Good night.
Makes you wonder if they have an HOA down there, because I would think the homeowners association would be pretty ticked off right now.
Yeah, they might have a lot of the places now have that.
Well, I did hear on the newscast, one of the questions that came through is, why aren't the parents looking? Like, why aren't they more frantic to find him? I think I'm going to let you handle this one. It seemed kind of obvious to me, but you have a nicer way of putting things.
Well, they're not worried or begging because they know exactly where he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, oh my goodness, what was that? Oh, it was a cloud. I was fixing to say it
Damn.
looked like on the screen like something had blown up.
No, it's a helicopter in the air. We got to get
Yeah.
Kevin a helicopter.
Yeah. We got to get him a drone.
We got to get Kevin a helicopter, a drone. He's going to have a list here in a minute. He's probably writing it down right now. But yeah, they know where he's at. That's why they're not frantic. That's the reason that, they took him somewhere before she was declared missing. And this whole thing was set up that, he left on Tuesday and we just happened to find his Mustang. And now we're going to report him missing.
I mean, does that give you a clue into his mindset when you look at how the parents are reacting to this? How was he raised, that what he did, and now how he's evading? And look at the parents. Look at the parents. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I wonder what all has happened in this family that we don't even know, that's been swept under the rug.
Oh yeah, I think a lot of it's going to come out. I mean, what do you think about the fact that his sister was the only one outraged, and to their own demise, they're doing everything they can to cover up for baby boy.
Yes.
Now we know
Yes.
they weren't in Wyoming. I don't think for a moment that they would be okay with him murdering Gabby. I have a feeling it's going to come out that he's had a life of one screw up after another that they've been right there to take care of.
Yeah, that's what I'm suspecting. You know, to be such a nature lover, it makes you wonder.
Well, I mean, such a nature lover, but I mean, has he really ever braved the elements? I'm guessing no.
Well, someone said he was like on the AT, the Appalachian Trail,
Mm-hmm.
for like 3 months, and survived that. But that's completely different than being in the swamp environment. We're talking apples and oranges here. And also, if he went on the AT to get away, they're already having really cold temps. And Mr. Barefoot Boy is not going to fare too well with that, because I don't know of him purchasing any winter gear. He's likes those cargo shorts and no shoes. And
there's no granola and yogurt trees on the Appalachian Trail.
That's true.
And I just don't think that's where he's at. Yeah, supposedly someone said he hiked it in 3 months. Yeah, I do have the pic from the airport. Hang on. I got it, snow. Yeah, nope, not calling anyone a liar, just doesn't seem plausible. Let me put it that way.
No, I don't think, that would be too well for him. He's hiding out somewhere, because, if you're backpacking, you can only carry so much food and water, and you can't go 3 days without water or your organs start failing.
Yeah, and he has no water there.
No. He's got swamp. He's got swamp water, Brooks.
Yeah, swamp water. Yeah, swamp water. How's it? No, come on. He's not drinking that. All right. Snow's wanting to see the picture from the airport from yesterday I put up. Let me put that up real quick. Hang on. It's actually him on an airplane. I don't have one from him at the airport, because we were looking at this yesterday. I'm going to take this down.
Yeah, that one where you can't see all of his ear.
Right.
See, that's a real good telltale sign to compare ears. Even
there you go, Snow.
Yeah. I just don't think that's him.
I don't think so either, because it wouldn't take him any time to realize that he had a plane ticket, especially using his passport to get out of the country.
Right.
It does look like him. I'm not going to lie, but so did the trail cam and a few other things.
Yeah. And did he have like a false passport and ID and all that? Because, they would be checking all that even after the fact. Like if he was on that plane and he made it to Canada or wherever, they'll be checking that. And so I just don't see that. I don't know. I don't think he's left the country.
I don't think, my theory. I know what John Q said. He was like, no, he didn't dismiss me. He just said, that would be too easy. It just seems that the fact that they took the camper, they left, they were gone for 3 days. That's enough time to drive up to New York, put him with friends. Long Island is a very busy place. He could be hiding in plain sight. Nobody would even know.
Right. And they have didn't they put the mask mandate back up in there? They might, that might be a thing too. He could be sneaking right by.
Yeah. All right. So JB was talking about the funeral on Sunday. Very, very sad. I still think it's going to take a long time for her parents for this to hit them because of everything going on.
Right. They're just numbed because it's been one hit after another with all this. And once everything kind of quietens down, it's gonna be bad. Bless their hearts.
It will be. It will be. And to think about the fact this is the man that asked to marry your daughter, and you welcomed him into your family, and this is what you get.
Right.
I mean, at this point, they're probably even over that part of it. I'd just be enraged, especially with his parents.
Yep.
So they're saying that the police are watching the house. I don't know. My guess is that they're thinking that he might. I don't think they think he's going to return there. He's obviously not that dumb. But I think, theft, internet, wackos that'll show up at the house while the parents aren't there.
Right. Yeah, there's all kinds of things that happen like that. But I was just thinking about the swamp thing again.
Mm-hmm.
There's this thing that is called a Sawyer life straw, and you can get fresh water through it. It's like a filter straw that you drink through, and you can put it in contaminated water like swamp water and drink it. So that could be a thing that he wouldn't have to carry water, but still you can only carry maybe 5 or 6 days worth of food in a backpack thing. So I keep going back trying to disprove their theory that he's in that swamp is what I'm saying.
Well, I think you've been right on the whole time because, for one, he's in a swamp. Right. Think about how chafed right now he must be.
Right, because it's brutal, and then all the water stuff, it's stagnant. There's all kinds of bacteria stuff, and then the mosquitoes, and just the alligators and snakes. Good night.
I think he's going to eventually turn himself in.
Well, he's going to have to, or they're going to hunt him down and get him. And I was listening to this group that are going after this guy that's murdered a lady over in California, and he's hiding down around, I think, Belize or Costa Rica, someplace like that. And there's this team of U.S. Marshals that go after these people that escape. And people say, oh, well, they won't get him back through extradition or whatever if there's no agreement. Well, guess what they do? These marshals go in, and the first thing they do is they go to the U.S. Embassy in that country. Since he's a U.S. citizen, they can take him out. They don't need an extradition agreement.
Nope, the U.S. Marshals will do it. I was watching something on another show the other day, and it was a non-extradition country. I want to say it was like Bangladesh, and the Marshals went in there, got him. And by the way, Canada they're not going to screw around. If you're there, they're going to toss you out.
Yep.
And like the warning we gave last night, if you have a receding hairline and a beard, guys, shave that beard now.
No kidding.
Because I'm telling you, anyone that looks anything like Brian is floating around somewhere right now on the internet.
Yeah, people are going to see themselves, like, oh, they won't be able to go anywhere. Everybody's going to be shooting their picture and turning that in for him. Because honestly, there's a lot of guys that look just like him.
I told you, I've got a new neighbor moving in. And I'm like, damn, that looks like Brian too.
Yep.
I don't think Brian's going to be here. Yeah. So, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to it's been interesting since day one. I really wish JB would use his platform more to well, I mean, right now he's following the case, so he can't say too much about like domestic violence and things like that. He's probably going to take this as a leap to a bigger network, though. What is your guess?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely going to move up. And I hope he does, continue to cover these stories like this, but also use it for a platform for talking about abused children, domestic violence for women, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. Danielle says, just like Bridge guy from the Delphi murders, people see him everywhere too. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people have, unless you know the person personally, a lot of people have similar characteristics.
Yeah, that's true. But what they need to be doing is putting out his voice more. I've noticed there's a lot of pictures, but there's very few people showing things that where he's talking. Because, everybody, like the Bridge guy, everybody's listening for that. That voice that sounds like that in that short recording.
I don't know that the Delphi murders will ever be solved. I really don't. I mean, I never lose hope in these cases. Right. I mean, I know a lot of people get frustrated about summer, but really 100 days is a very short time considering the mess they have.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a really big mess.
Oh, gosh, we know. We know.
I'm just tired of nothing burgers. That's what they've been feeding us. The TBI and the Hawkins County.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when JB had those bracelets for Gabby and they were teal. And I'm like, so why have we been using yellow this whole time? Was her favorite color teal or yellow?
Yeah, that's kind of confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I guess we'll find out. I like how JB took a bracelet for himself. I'm like, well, God forbid you sell it like they asked you to.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, does anybody want to come up and chat before we wind this down? Let's put this up real quick. Yeah, I think a lot of our Canadian friends in chat are going, man, we don't want Brian up here. I know, I'm reading it right now. They're like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we have several people from Canada in here, and they're just like, yeah, we don't want him.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. I've got my other phone out here so I can look at the chat.
Rolling in. We don't want him. We don't want him. Yeah. Well, we do want him, guys. So if you happen to come across him, we're kind of looking for him down here.
Yeah, kind of pack him up and send him over there to the Wyoming or to Denver to the FBI so they can get a hold of that little puppy.
Or just drive him down to Buffalo, New York. There's an FBI center there. I think they'd be interested.
Yep. I think just about any office, any FBI office would take him.
I think so too. I think any hell, I think any little village in New York would grab him.
Sure. Because of the warrant and everything, any police officer can arrest him and take him into custody. So
question, do you think Walt and JB went home last night and asked their wives if they have their PIN number?
I'm sure they did. I'm sure it started really worrying them.
Because they both look so confused all at once. And I don't know why I got such a giggle out of that.
Yeah, that was really funny. That was really funny.
All right, guys, I'm going to wind this down. Anything happens, we'll hop back on. And if not, then we will see you Tuesday morning for Summer Wells.
All righty.
We have another case that we're going to start talking about next week too. And if you guys want to check out the Discord, send me an email. You can find it in the About tab. Come in and chat. And you can see the email and the Facebook page scrolling across the bottom. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Hey, thanks, mods. Thanks, chat. I think we have the best chat ever, really.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Great mods, too.
Definitely the best mods, man. Those girls know how to get them. It's great. Kevin doesn't even have time to flex his muscles by the time they're on them, but we're not going to tell him that. All right, you guys have a great Friday. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend, everyone.